So in Starfield, there is one major point that you want to be looking at, and that is going to be skills. To start with, you're not going to have loads of skill points, and if you find yourselves onto the menu, it is in the top right. There is a lot of skills. We've gone over pretty much most of them in a previous video, but I wanted to give you my best thoughts on what the early skills you want to be using in Starfield. Obviously, in terms of actually finishing all of them, every single skill has 4 levels, a rank 1, 2, 3, and 4, and also a challenge to complete. So the oxygen one is use up all of your available oxygen 50 times. Obviously, then it might be 75 and 100 or 100 and 200. I don't know, we're not there yet. So every single stat has 4 different ones. So it's not only just like all of these 5 say, it's also 4 times them as well. And each one requires another skill point to get to the next level. And then obviously finish the challenge. And then another skill point to finish that one again. When it comes to finishing them all, I personally think to start with, you want to be spreading your skills nice and kind of clean across the whole bunch. But I'm going to show you my favourite ones to start with. And physical is always the great one to start with, as I think these 3 are going to be one of the main important ones. So we do have obviously fitness, which was the oxygen. It will give you 10%, 20%, 30%, and sprinting and power attacks now use significantly less oxygen when in Starfield, which I think is absolutely massive. All of them, I would say, are a #1 priority. You then have weightlifting, which again is another great one. If you haven't seen before, obviously down on the right here, you should have mass, which should be 61 or whatever number you've got. Take away the amount that you actually can have. So I think to start with, I think I'm rank 3, so I get 75, 85. So you get 100 kilograms to be able to do. Obviously, then added on to it with the extra mass. So to start with, you only get 10, 25, 50, and an extra 100 on top of it. So it is not bad whatsoever to get to the max of that. It just means that you can carry more. And if you are scavenging whilst in battles, in shipwrecks, in general picking up stuff, then obviously you're not going to have that problem where you're carrying too much and you can't fast travel. So I think that one is a massive one as well, as you'll come to realize 100 kilograms is really not a lot to be carrying. I think at the moment I'm on 61 because I've literally just gutted everything. Then we have finally on the physical wellness. This is going to be your health. So you get an increase of your maximum health by 10, 20, 30 and 40%. Another absolutely crucial one depending on your level of difficulty for the game. If you're on very easy or easy, I'd say you could probably get away with it, but in general it's not a bad one. Really, that's going to be too hard to do. Obviously, then we have the social aspect. Again, it all depends on your gameplay. I've personally gone with persuasion. I have just starting to work my way through, obviously, onto rank 2 now. Nearly there with the succeeding speeches. But I do think, again, with this one, it all depends on how you want to go, as you don't need the persuasion. You can persuade people without this. This just gives you an extra percent to be able to have a succession rate. So 50%, I will always take that. But I do think this one is really good to show an easier side of the game of just basically persuading people. When it comes to the rest of the stats, we'll kind of go over the uses of them really, especially looking at the first row mainly, because obviously this is early on for the skills, not necessarily in an end game sort of scenario. In terms of combat, personally, again, if your game mode's on very difficult, you might find this a little bit more pleasing, but I think on the easiest kind of difficulties, it's not needed. It's really not. I feel like the game's levels, I've tried very easy, I've tried very hard, and both of them are so opposite completely, as you can imagine. But very easy is literally child's play. I don't think you need anything of these really that is going to be worth it. I'd say these are more an end game sort of kind of tick in the box really, just to say that you've got the pistol certificate. I don't think I've used a pistol other than maybe the first gun that I picked up. Other than that, it's always been something else. So for me, I don't think these are going to have too much in the early stages. We then have obviously science. I think this one could be crucial, and this one will depend on how you play the game. If you are just trying to absolutely run through the main story, you might not necessarily need it all. There is going to be different things as you get further and further that would help out. But I think if you are just blasting through, you could get away with it. Because obviously when we look at this, we've got grav jump drives Sorry, let me try that again. Increased grabs jump range of jump drive by 15%. Again, you don't necessarily need it. You've then obviously got geology, get more common and uncommon resources from surface objects. Don't necessarily need it, especially if you're not trying to craft anything, you've not got an outpost. That one, again, is just not going to be needed too much. Med packs, trauma packs, and emergency kits restore 10% additional health and 10% faster. Could be useful, again, in kind of the later stages of the game, but if you are on very easy, again, I don't think it's necessarily needed too much. We have Surveying, which adds an optional zoom to the hand scanner, and the scan distance is increased to 20 meters. You're not going to need it. Obviously, with the scanning, this is majorly important if you are trying to find uncommon resources on the planet. So if you don't have this, you can just see that they're on the planet, but you can't actually find them from a distance. You have to actually click into them or click into the planet and go and find it with your hand scanner. So this is going to be great if you are searching for a specific resource that is uncommon. And obviously, as you go further into it, you've got rare, obviously exotic, and then obviously you can detect resources on planets and moon surfaces and gain a complete list of cargoes on the ships in space, which again is going to be perfect for the easier surveying rather than necessarily just trying to get in and land on the planet. We then have weapon engineering. I personally got from doing the upgrade video on the weapons, but again, if you don't need to upgrade your weapons too much, you don't need it. You can easily pick up guns, buy bullets, and you're absolutely as happy as Larry. And then finally we have tech. We have the boost pack training, which allows you to utilize your boost pack. That is going to be massive. I do think that one is a big one to try and get. And obviously as you go forward, you've got using a boost pack, it expends less fuel, regenerates quicker, and then obviously doubles the previous bonuses, which is going to be perfect. And we've got a plane flying over our head, lovely. But in terms of this, it's going to be absolutely huge to start with. Boost jump 10 times whilst in combat as well. And then also on this skill, we also have security. This one, again, is kind of half and half. I've seen the uses of it, and I do think that's why I'm trying to now get it up a little bit, as I do think, again, it adds an element that is just a little bit easier when it comes to doing some missions, that you can kind of use the sneakier way, rather than trying to just do it really more difficulty. But in terms of kind of the best stats then, what I'm trying to think here, I would say physical is hands down going to be the number one with these three. That is going to be massive in terms of any sort of campaign, as it obviously gives you the very basics going forward. I don't think stealth is really needed too much. Boxing, again, I'm not going to need. And I'm not really too much talking about the top, the second, third and fourth row. The only good thing as well is, if you are using skill points, so for instance with say fitness, I'm on rank 2, with obviously weightlifting, I'm on rank 3, and then obviously with the wellness, I'm on rank 3 as well. You don't need to spend, so for instance if I look at social, I need to use 2 more skill points here, 6 here and 10 here. To start with, I thought it might have been you needed to use 2 more on this row, then 4 more on this row, and then say 3 more on this row. It is actually in total. So now I can obviously go and have a look at martial arts, and I only need 4 more points to see the bottom one without getting any of these as well. So it is based on literally just the skill points you use alone, not on the level that you're using it. So you're not using it on level 1, 2 or 3. It can all be on 1 if you've got all these, say, to the max level. In terms of social, again, I would say persuasion is going to be my number 1. I don't think necessarily there's another one there. Combat's pretty standard. Science is really good for the extra bit of missions. I do think going around with some of these is going to be absolutely massive. And then obviously the jetpack is going to be the second best in my opinion. So let me know down below what you're thinking, and if you find another skill that is useful, let me know.